Testing, testing. I believe we are live. Let me know if you can hear and see me okay in the chat. Testing, testing. We got big news. We got big news to talk about. Today is October 20th, 2024, 1000 hours Eastern Standard Time. Let me know if you can hear and see me in the chat okay, so we can get on with our program. Audio, visual. All right. Phil Adams is here. The great Phil Adams from over in England, where they're playing football right now at this very moment. There's a game, I believe it's at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it's the Patriots and the Jaguars. And I got news for you. Drake May looking pretty good. So there's that. Harlan Abraham is here. Good to see Harlan. Hit the like button. Yeah, hit that like button. We got a lot to talk about today. Is there ever a dull moment in Jetsland these days? We got all sorts of stuff going on. Harlan can see and hear okay. All right. Well, of course, if you haven't heard the news, the big news this morning from about 2 hours ago, the Haason Reddick drama is over. Phil says, Wembley Stadium today. Wembley Stadium, not Tottenham Hotspur. I like this Wembley Stadium better. Oh, they're showing these, what do you call the people with the big hats, Phil? Those, anyways, Wembley Stadium. The Patriots are looking a lot better. From what I've seen in this game, it seems like they're getting their act together. AVP is their OC, Alex Van Pelt. It seems like he's getting what he wants out of his offense. Now, they are playing the Jaguars, and it's looking like Dougie P is going to get fired at some point in time because his team keeps playing like garbage after they paid the quarterback. But it also looks like the Patriots are kind of getting their act together. Drake May came into the game last week for the first time, had some moments, but also didn't look like a rookie. Now it looks like he's got his act together. So he's been looking pretty good in this game. Now, again, it's against the Jaguars defense, which is not so hot. But at the same time, the game plan also for the Patriots was not so much, give it to Ramondre Stevenson and let the quarterback dump it off when he gets in trouble. This seems like a game plan where they're like, no, let's put it on May, which is what has impressed me. And he's done well with it. He had one drop from Polk, who's been trouble this season. And then when he gets pressured, he's able to flush out of the pocket and find receivers. So it seems to me May is playing very well. And we got to see what happens with these young quarterbacks. You never know. They look good one drive, and the next drive they look like garbage, and then the next you think they're good, and then the next year comes and they're not so good, and so who knows. But so far, he looks competent and in command, and confident and competent is what I would say he looks like. So that's a little Drake May. That's going on. We'll keep an eye on the that AFC match, of course, that has implications. We play the Patriots after the Steelers, so it may not be the same Patriots team that we blew out earlier in the year. And so we'll have to see how that goes. In Jetsland, there's never a dull moment. And as of today, we now get back our pass rusher, Haason Reddick. So we got a news item here. Let's see if I can pull this up. Well, first, if I could figure out how to use the software, that'd be good. News item. Breaking snooze. Haason Reddick ends the dumbest holdout of all time. And he'll report to the Jets facility tomorrow. Now, a lot of that's going to not really be too important if the Jets lose tonight. So the Jets have the Sunday Night Football tonight. I will be on with the Green Bean and crew this evening. Hope to see you over there for the live stream. But, if we happen to win this game, well, things start getting a lot more interesting. But the idea with this signing with Haason Reddick is that we we stepped in and we said, okay, we're gonna pay for your fines, essentially the ones that can't be waived. So they give him that money back, and gave him a bunch of incentives, and in he comes. So what was the point of all this? It seems like he was making a boneheaded decision. Maybe he was getting bad advice from family members, and so forth and so on. And the agent obviously was telling him to come in. The agency dropped him eventually because he wouldn't listen, apparently. And so he picked up Drew Rosenhaus, probably the best agent in the league. You could argue that, but definitely one of the best, Drew Rosenhaus. He's known as a deal maker. It took him about a week, but he made the deal. And I guess what he told him was, look, Haason, I went to every single general manager in the NFL. You know me. I'm Drew Rosenhaus. I know everybody and everybody. And if I could make a deal for you better than what the Jets are offering, I would. But now you're hearing it from a second person. He probably heard the same thing from Tory Dandy. Didn't want to listen. Maybe he thought Tory Dandy was lying, or I don't know. I don't know why he didn't listen to Tory Dandy, but he didn't. The agency drops him. And so Rosenhaus steps in and says, okay, let's see what I can do. And this is now the second top agent in the NFL telling the player the same thing. Take the Jets deal. It's the best you're going to get. Go in there and get sacks. And now he's wasted 6, potentially 7. Who knows if he can play? Who knows if he can play against New England? And he's wasted all these games, 6 or 7 games, where he could have been getting sacks. Because the way for him to get paid is to get sacks. You know, it's sort of like a closer in baseball. The stat that the closer uses to get paid is saves. That's it, really. You know, you could say ERA and other things, but for the most part, if you stack up a bunch of saves as a closer, you're going to get paid. Well, you know, it's the same thing with Haason Reddick. The number of sacks he has this season is how he's going to get paid. And so he's wasted all these games. Now he's going to come in either against New England or the following game against the Texans and start playing then. And we'll see how he does. We don't know if he's in shape. We have no idea what's going on with this man. He didn't have a training camp. He hasn't had a practice. He hasn't done anything. So this was, again, the dumbest holdout of all time. It accomplished absolutely nothing. He could have had all of this, all the things he's getting now, he could have had at the beginning of the year, and he could have played from the beginning of the year and started stacking up sacks, which he needs to do to get paid again. So he did all this for absolutely no reason. Totally stupid. We have to be, of course, on the other end of the dumbest holdout of all time because we're the Jets, and that's what we do. So then the other aspect of this is something that Phil Adams mentions here. And this is something that we got to tie some loose strings together. We got to tie some points, tie some information together. So Phil says, Frankie, is Woody actually pulling the strings? Is this the Jets PR machine making it look like it's Woody doing these deals, Adams and Reddick? Now, we did hear a lot about Woody in the press, and we haven't heard from Joe Douglas. And so that's part of what's going on here. Joe Douglas hasn't said anything. He put out a statement earlier about Haason Reddick saying we're not trading him. He needs to get in here. And basically he was right. He does need to get in here. We're not trading him. There's also a clause in the trade where if he got traded to an NFC team, then other certain things happen. So it made the trade even a little more difficult. So he wasn't getting traded. And he did need to come in here from the team perspective and from his own personal perspective. And then you have to wonder. So one of the things that makes me wonder about Woody and Joe is the following. So when we fired Robert Saleh, one of the things that came out in the media was from old Billy Belichick. Now, you may want to throw this out the window because it's Belichick, but at the same time, Belichick has been in the NFL for 50-plus years. He knows everybody and everything about it. He knows the ownership groups. He knows the general manager. He knows everything. He's been in the NFL 50-plus years. Bill Belichick. So what he said was that this is the sort of thing, when we fired Robert Saleh, Belichick thought it was a little bit of a rash decision and said, this is the sort of thing that Woody does. He's impetuous. You don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what he's going to do. He makes crazy decisions. This is just what Woody Johnson does. So that struck most people as a little bit of an odd comment because it's not like we fire head coaches in the middle of the season all the time. This was the first time, in fact, we had done that. But it's still stuck in my mind as something interesting for a person like Belichick to say. This is not a neophyte guy. This is not somebody with a little bit of experience. It's not Matt Rule or somebody like that. Okay, this is a guy 50 plus years experience in the NFL, and this is what he's telling us. And maybe that sheds light on why he did what he did back in the day when Woody was taking ownership of the team and he got the hell out of here, go to New England. He wanted someone that he thought was a little more stable, so that was maybe Robert Kraft. Then you hear about Davante Adams, and it seemed like Woody stepped in there and made that happen and said, let's get this done about Davante. After our struggles in London, we heard Woody was very upset about the London game and about how the season's going generally. So maybe he stepped up and said, yeah, we'll take on Davante's salary, whatever we need to do, rework it, kick money down the road, whatever we got to do. And you didn't hear much from Joe Douglas about Davante. So all you heard in the press was Woody this, Woody that. Now, part of this is Woody was also at the owners' meetings recently. So the owners just happened to be meeting. They meet periodically throughout the year. In this meeting, they had to approve Tom Brady as owner of the Raiders, not owner of the Raiders, a limited partner, 10% stake. It's reported he may have 5 and another partner of his 5% of the Raiders. So a minority owner of the Raiders. They had to approve that. They had to approve a few other league items. So they were meeting. So, of course, the press went down to where they were meeting, and they cornered Woody Johnson at the hotel or wherever he was and asked him about this. And so they had an opportunity to get him on camera and get him on the microphone. And Joe Douglas didn't have to appear anywhere in the media. There was nowhere for the media to descend to. And general managers are not required by the league to make appearances except a couple of times a year. So that led to this more speculation that this is Woody. And then, of course, now we're also hearing, then we heard that Drew Rosenhaus was flying in last week to the game, the Monday night game, and he spoke to Woody. But Peter Schrager also said, yeah, and after that, though, the deal was worked out by Joe Douglas and staff. Now, all of these things combined make me do wonder, as Phil is saying here, that maybe Woody is taking control of the team. And if that's the case, what that really means is, to me, that maybe Joe Douglas is on his way out. So that's the thing we have to really consider. It's like maybe Woody knows, all right, Joe, at the end of the year, maybe Joe's getting the axe, and he knows that because his contract is ending. He doesn't have a contract for next year, and it's a little bit strange to have a general manager be a lame duck status because, he has to make decisions for the future of the franchise. He has to, any general manager always has to balance the current roster, the current situation with what's best long term. And it's a balancing act. And so here's Joe Douglas going, well, wait a minute. I don't have any long-term security. I don't have a contract after this year. I don't know where I'm going to be next year. How do you expect me to do this balancing act between the present situation and long-term, even though we're supposed to be all in for this year? We'll get to Mike Williams in a second for that. But it's a little bit of a strange situation that Woody would just let him sort of be a lame duck unless he knows, well, let's just play out the string with Joe for this year so Joe and his staff can do all the transactions in season. But anything major, I'll step in and kind of do a forcing function to get them done for things we need to get done, in which case Davante Adams and Haason Reddick are the things that we needed to get done. So to me, that's what this really looks like. I could be wrong, but reading the tea leaves, it seems like Joe is on his way out. And, you could have your opinions about that. I'm kind of 50-50 about Joe. I just don't know who we could get better. So that's really my concern. He's had his hits and misses like every general manager. But who can we get better than Joe Douglas? Jets chaos. Jeremy's here. It's all meaningless if we lose tonight. Well, guess what happened last year, Jeremy? There was a team called the Green Bay Packers. You may have heard of them. And they were 2-5 last year, and they made the playoffs. So it's not that you can't make the playoffs. It just becomes very, very difficult. So, yeah, it's pretty much a must-win, though. Hader Ali is here. Good to see Hader. John Hepburn's here. So that's really where we stand with the Haason Reddick situation. Eric Craig is here. So that's where we are with Haason Reddick. He should be reporting to the team tomorrow, and it would be much better if he were reporting to a 3-4 team than a 2-5 team. That's for sure. But one other thing we need to keep in mind is how does this affect the roster? So let's take a look at how this affects the roster. You may wonder, how does this affect our roster? Yeah, that's what I want. So here's the roster. We got Davante, so forth and so on. But here's really the issue here. So what this really does is, so you're going to insert Reddick here. So Michael Clemens goes back here. Eric Watts goes back here so that these UDFAs are now third string where they belong. And if you think about it, really, if JJ were here, he'd be here, and then Will McDonald would be here, and then Takk McKinley would be here, regardless of how many sacks Will McDonald has. And then now it's looking pretty good. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, JJ's out, so forget him. But even with Will McDonald here, so McDonald, Kinlaw, Quinnen, and Reddick as your starters, that's looking pretty good. Now, the problem is the second unit, has Takk McKinley, hasn't done much, and then you have these two, ain't done much, and then you have Clemens back here, and then you have the UDFAs here. Now, can Leonard Taylor provide some improvement? Maybe. We don't know. So I think this is better. It's obviously better for our pass defense. How much it's going to help our run defense? Well, you do have to set the edge in the run, and, Reddick's probably better than Clemens at that. So it helps. It definitely helps. But I still think we could, and I still think we can make a trade for a defensive tackle. I don't see why we shouldn't make a trade for a defensive tackle. We need to upgrade this position here. Now, maybe Lakey's going to play better. He just got back from his injury. I don't know. But if you look at his Arizona film, he wasn't that good. You look at his PFF grades, not that good. So I'm not sure what our pro personnel staff found with Lakey Fotu that was going to make you think that he's any good. So, but maybe he is. Who knows? But if you look at it, it does make our Reddick on this team does make our defense better. There's no doubt about it. Question now is going to be, how soon can he get in there? Can he play against New England? We don't know. So that's essentially the effect on the defense, and in terms of how it affects the roster. So let's stop this. Yeah, Harlan says, I don't think any GM or established head coach would want to come to the Jets. That's also something to consider. I mean, who can we get? You fired Joe Douglas. Okay, great. Who's going to replace him? Who's going to want to come here? Because general managers, unlike head coaches, I mean, you could find a head coach because coaches have a lot more options, right? Like you think about Robert Saleh. He's going to get a job as a defensive coordinator in about 2.5 seconds. No problem. He could go, Robert Saleh, if he really wanted to, could become a head coach in college and get paid lots of money and do that, go there and be a head coach for a, mid-major college, university. And he would be beloved, and he'd be great at that, actually. So they have options. General managers, it's tough. Once you get fired, you see a lot of them going into the media. You see a lot of them, it's kind of difficult so once you take the head GM job, if you're an assistant GM, you can kind of move around, you're sort of anonymous, and so forth and so on. But once you become a general manager, you become a figurehead on a team, you get all the blame and credit for whatever the heck happens. And so you have to be very careful, even though you might say, well, this is a high-paying job. Why wouldn't you just take it? Well, do you really want to have a GM job for 2, 3, 4 years, get fired, and then that's it. Where are you going to land? It's very, you're going to go work for the 33rd team. I mean, how much are they paying, Tannenbaum? It's a little rough. So I'm personally in favor of keeping Joe. I don't think he's the best GM in the league by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think he's the worst. And I just don't know who the heck else we can get that's going to want this job and go live in New Jersey, where you can't even pump your own gas by law. So I agree with that. Eric says, yeah, we need a defensive. Yeah, I don't think we're going to find a safety. I think our safety is Jalen Mills. We already got him. And then as a plug-in. But we need to find another defensive tackle, my opinion. Here's B. Trav. My guess, Douglas will be re-signed. Sometimes you need a third party to step in and stroke egos. Well, he also needs to approve the money. So maybe he wasn't approving the money before, and then he kind of was like, okay, enough is enough. I'm ready with the money. Jeremy says, if we turn the season around, well, yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I think it's just so hard to tell. Like maybe Woody was holding it up before by giving JD a budget and saying you can't go past this budget. Like I think if you think about the JFM trade, to me the only thing that makes sense about trading JFM for no reason is that Woody or the cap guy came to Joe and said, "Look, we got too much money in the defensive line. You're over your budget. Fix it." And so he couldn't. It's not like he went and said trade JFM, but he said, "Look, you're budgeting too much money for the defensive line. You got to fix it somehow." And the only way he could fix it was to get JFM to take a huge pay cut, which he didn't want to do. He was willing to take a pay cut, but not a huge one, or trade him. So he trades him. I mean, if we had JFM on this team, I think it'd be looking a little different. But maybe Woody was holding that up, and we just don't know, because I don't understand that trade for any other reason. And the only thing JD told us was it was financial. Well, why was it financial? If we're all in this season, just restructure the contract, kick the can down the road, and do it that way. So the Jags apparently scored a touchdown, kicking an extra point on the board. So I think we got 10-7 game. So New England already has 10 points. So there were 9:21 in the second quarter. So 10 points for the Patriots by 9:21 in the second quarter, and it's a touchdown for Brian Thomas Jr., BTJ as they call him, the rookie. So Trevor Lawrence getting on the board there. And 10 points for the Patriots for an offense that was, in the doldrums. They already have 10 points with 9:21 in the second quarter. I think they're looking better. So their team may be, getting their act together. So that's something to keep in mind. So yeah, we definitely, we don't need this is what people say, but Leggy Fotu's a fatty. So if you just had to get a fat guy for the middle, this is not how football works. What you need is a specific type of guy. Like a guy like Jacqueline Roy would have been a good pickup for us. I don't know why we didn't pick him up. He has the exact play style we need. Lakey Fotu does not really have the kind of play style we need, at least from what we've seen so far. Nobody's making this trade. That's unrealistic. So Jeremy says, you can't, yeah, that's right. And they're not trading, if they trade Max Crosby, it's going to be for a Herschel Walker type deal. Like you have to give them everything you have to give them first round picks, second round picks, to Garrett Wilson. You have to give them the sky and the moon. They're not the people like Max Crosby who are elite. This man plays 90% of the snaps, 90% of the snaps, and his energy never stops. And he's elite. You don't get those guys for Garrett Wilson. You have to give up your whole team, your whole thing. Not getting Max Crosby under any circumstances. as far as I can tell, unless you're ready to give them your whole draft pick, all of your draft picks for 2025. So, looks like we're going to be in all whites for tonight's game. Woody Johnson's posting. It'd be nice if we could keep the white helmet as our default helmet. I don't know. Somebody needs to make that decision. So that's it for Haason Reddick. We'll see how that plays out. Oh, and I even had this news item in here. Woody meddling JD out. Already discussed it. Now, something else that's going out from tonight's game that you may not have heard. We got another news item, as if we didn't have enough going on. We got something else going on for tonight's game. News item, Donald Trump to appear at Jets-Steelers game tonight. So as if we didn't have enough going on, we have to have a presidential candidate showing up to our game. Now, why is he doing that? Well, Pennsylvania is a swing state, and so he's, trying to drum up support in old Pennsylvania. For those who don't know, the two big vote centers in Pennsylvania is Pittsburgh and on one end of the state, and then all the way on the other end of the state is Philadelphia. That's where, something like 800,000 voters combined, or 900,000, some big number, are in the state of Pennsylvania. So he's coming to a football game, drum up support. It's an interesting one for him because, of course, he's from New York. He's very familiar with New Jersey, New York, and, he's trying to drum up support in Pennsylvania so he can win the state of Pennsylvania in the presidential election. So that's just another thing that we have to deal with in our games. Is we're having all of these primetime games where all of this drama. They're going to be talking about Haason Reddick, and they're going to be talking about Davante Adams, who will be playing tonight, and hopefully he plays well. And what about Aaron Rodgers, and what about Donald Trump coming to the game? It's like it never ends, the drama and the saga. Now, if we could just win these frickin' games, we could kind of laugh all of this off. Kind of like the Chiefs do with Taylor Swift and whatnot. They deal with all this drama and then they win the game. they now there's big, the officials help them, but nonetheless, they also have the best quarterback in the NFL. That helps, but nonetheless, they win the games. Can we win the games, please? I mean, if we got this win tonight, now Pittsburgh's going to be rocking. I don't know if you guys have ever been in the stadium. I've been in there for a preseason game. Harlan says also he went to college. Yeah, he went to Wharton School of Business over there, University of Pennsylvania back in the day. So he's also familiar with Pennsylvania. So and then you have this. John says Trump going to be sitting with Woody. The way they put it out, John, was that a guest who owns a suite, so those luxury suite boxes, one of those guests invited President Trump, former President Trump, to the game. That's how they put it out. So it wasn't really Woody, but we'll see. Maybe Woody will be in the same box. Who knows? There's a bunch of rich people with their luxury boxes. This isn't the people of Pittsburgh, the blue-collar people sitting in the top row of the stands. These are the hoi polloi of the Pittsburgh area. So somebody who owns a box, and he wanted Trump there. Woody loves it, yeah. Big Green, I would say he is. He's a football fan. We know he's a fight fan. I would say he's pulling for the Jets. He's from New York. He probably pulls for the Jets and Giants simultaneously, you would think. So we got to deal with all of these things that, Pittsburgh was rocking. Yeah. Yeah. If there's one good thing about Pittsburgh, it's that stadium and those football fans. Those are great football fans, and that stadium is rocking. And when they play Renegade, I would say Renegade in what used to be called Heinz Field, now called Acrisure Stadium. When they play Renegade, that is a special thing. Like, it is awesome. So as an experience, as like a fan experience, and I only experienced it in the preseason. I can only imagine what it's like during the regular season or the playoffs. That is an amazing tradition that they have in that Pittsburgh stadium, and that I would say is probably the best thing about Pittsburgh is the game day experience in that stadium. So that is something. So we got to deal with all of that, and then we got to deal with Trump, and then it's also Davante Adams' first game, and it's also Haason Reddick's coming in, and there's so many storylines. I mean, NBC has to be thrilled. That's for one thing. I mean, they have to be. They're going to get a rating like you've never seen before. They're going to get. They might get the highest rated football game in the history of football games tonight. They got to be doing somersaults. I mean, geez, whether you hate us or love us, you got to watch us. You know, Woody will be in London as ambassador again. Well, I don't know if he wants to take another ambassadorship. I mean, the man should concentrate on his football team winning football games. B. Trav says, Trump will be on camera in the Jets box, especially if the Jets are winning. Vote is too close in PA. Pittsburgh is awesome. Yeah. Well, I disagree with the last part, but yeah, everybody has their opinions. I hate Pittsburgh, obviously. Obviously, I moved out of there. Smart tactical move, but we can't play. Why can't we just play at 1 o'clock? Let's play a 1 o'clock game where the red hot spotlight doesn't have to be on us. For God's sakes. Can we bank a few wins before we can we bank a few wins before we have to be in front of the whole nation? It's crazy. Yeah, so some of this stuff, Big Green, back in the day, a lot of the labor laws actually came out of those factories. Andrew Carnegie was very philanthropic, but those labor laws weren't established yet. And this is in the time of the Pinkertons and all this stuff. So all of the like National Labor Relations Board and all these things that came out, they really came out of the steelworkers going on strike and all of that and figuring out, okay, what are the workplace rules here for these emerging industries? And after that, we got it all sorted out pretty much. So that's good. So let's see what we got here. Any other news items? Well, just the Davante trade. Obviously, this was a news item that we thought we were going to be talking about. Now, me personally, and if you've been on X, you saw me and Dom C, the great Dom C, talking about, well, are they going to trade Williams? How are they going to clear a roster spot? One of the things is with Reddick, we currently have 54 players for the roster, so we do have to make a corresponding move tomorrow unless we trade Williams. Now, I personally would not trade Mike Williams. I would keep him around. What's the point of trading him? You never know when injuries are going to hit. He's a depth piece as long as he's not causing a problem. As long as he's not causing a problem in the locker room, I say keep him around. He might be valuable later in the season, even if his role is diminished. I mean, shoot, he might catch an important touchdown pass. He might catch the game-winning touchdown pass tonight. You never know with these players. So, I don't know. Unless they come to us with some amazing deal that we can't refuse, okay, for Mike Williams, which I can't imagine the Steelers or anyone else is going to do. Why would we get rid of him? We're an all-in team. It's an all-in year. We got to win. Mike Williams could make an important play. And you also need depth. I mean, injuries, as we all know, are the worst part of the game, but they're a real part of the game. You need depth everywhere. I personally would keep him unless there's just an incredible deal to be made, unless they want to include a defensive tackle in the trade. But I really doubt they want to do that. They probably just want to trade picks. I mean, but if they want to give us an impactful defensive tackle, okay, maybe. That's something I would consider. But yeah, and then here's Jeremy saying, yeah, you could run some 10 personnel. I mean, you can have 4 receivers on the field. Why not? And there are some route concepts where you want the skill set of Mike Williams on the field. I mean, some route concepts, you just want a guy to run a 9 route, and if the quarterback gets in trouble, fling it up to him and let him battle it out. And you don't want to be doing that with Xavier Gibson. You want to be doing that with someone like Mike Williams. So I just don't really see the value in trading him unless it's a great trade. Somebody wants to give us a second round pick, okay, but you're not getting a second round pick for Mike Williams. I mean, I just don't see it. Big Green says, well, what about Yeboah? We don't know. He hasn't been practicing. He's eligible to come out. He's in his window, and he hasn't gotten on the practice field, so he's not ready to practice. You got to practice before you play. Jeremy says, will we see even more 11 personnel now? I doubt it, Jeremy. We're a very high percentage already. How much more can we do? I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with 12 personnel. 12 personnel hasn't been great. It hasn't been terrible. It hasn't been good when we try to run out of 12. But Brendan Bates didn't work out, and he was on the field a lot for 12 and 13 personnel. Now, the question is, does Ferkser get a real shot? They signed him to the 53-man. We got Ferkser, the Berserkster, now on the 53-man. So he's off the P squad, and Bates went to the P squad. So do we just do our 12 personnel and say, okay, Ferkser's going to block it up better? We'll see. But I can't imagine we're going to do more. What I could imagine is that we do more 21 personnel. So I would like to see us do more pony package. I love 21 personnel because it puts the defense in a bit of a bind in terms of what they're going to do. Number one, it's unusual. You don't see a lot of 21 personnel, so it's a little weird. Then you wonder how they're going to sub. So we sub in 21. How are you going to defend it? Are you going to defend it nickel? Are you going to defend it base? Okay, and then no matter what you do, we should have answers. And then it allows you to keep 2 players in to block if you want to, if they're blitzing, say. Or you can just leak them out, even against the blitz. And if they go to cover them, then fine, you've taken the blitz out of the situation. And then you just look in the middle of the field to see who's open. Or they don't cover them, they do blitz, and then you just flip it out to them. So I love 21 personnel. I wish we would use that more. We have the backs to do it. Obviously, Brees and Braylon can both do everything you need. So instead of increasing 11 personnel, we never use 10. In fact, I don't think we've used 10 personnel, Jeremy, all year. As you know, I chart every single game. I don't think we've used 10 personnel even once this year. So it may be that either A, it's not in the playbook, or B, they just really don't like those plays. It's in the playbook, but they don't put it in the game plan for that week. Maybe we had it once, it's very rare. So I don't think we're going to run 10, but what we could run is 21. And we know that Hackett in particular is a fan of 21. They ran it a lot in Green Bay when they had Aaron Jones and Quadzilla. So let's see here. 14-10 Jacksonville on New England. So Jacksonville may be getting back into this game. Well, they're ahead now, but getting their act together. They were looking bad in the beginning. Maybe New England is stalling out now. New England was able to score on their first drive, and then they put up a field goal after that. There's 3:16 left in the first half of this game. It's 14-10. Jacksonville over the Patriots. Battle of the 1-5 monsters. They refuse to take Jalen Polk out of the game. There's a sub-story that you may or may not be aware of with Jalen Polk. He keeps dropping passes left, right, and center, and he did not have this problem in college. And he dropped another one this game that I saw. But they refuse to put my guy Javon Baker in there. Get Polk out of there. Get Baker in there. Give Javon a chance. Who's this number 2 guy? But anyway, Polk keeps dropping passes. And he had a pretty bad drop in this game that I saw. May made a nice throw off schedule, and Polk dropped it. So, but they refused to give Javon Baker a chance. they're sort of doing with Javon Baker what we're doing with Malachi Corley. They're just hiding him for some reason. Maybe they're not doing good in practice. We don't know. Oh, but one thing that is clear about the Patriots now, they're definitely not trying to hide or shield Drake May. He may perform, he may not. I haven't seen everything he's done in this game, but the game plan definitely is not to let's make it easy on Drake May in this game. They're putting a lot on his shoulders, it seems to me. So that tells you that the coaching staff has seen a lot in practice to give them confidence to let them do that. So I would say that's probably the biggest positive that a Patriot fan could take away. It's like, no, they're not trying to hide him. They're not trying to make him a check down Charlie like Mac Jones was. They're letting him eat, as they say. So that game is at the 2-minute warning at Wembley Stadium, as Phil the Jetty Jet Adams told us. All right, we got trade Williams for a Band-Aid. Use Band-Aid, no thanks. Yeah, no point in doing that. Green Bean has a shed. Yeah, well, and it's a little different, right? So Allen would be just doing blitz pickup. I mean, I don't know if you really want to use him like a fullback, but, in blitz pickup, you don't have to be technically perfect. You just kind of have to keep the guy off of the quarterback, that is. So those are really the news items that we have. Those are the news items that we have. Oops. Put the chat up here. So, yeah, that's what we have going on. I'm checking Twitter live as we're going to see if there's any updates from the beat. See if there's any further updates. They're all probably busy writing their stories about Haason Reddick and whatnot. All right, not seeing anything new here. All right, so those are the major news items. So what else did I forget? Any other news items? Any items of the week that you guys want to know about? One thing we could do. I wonder if it'll work. Let's see if this will work. Anybody want to take a look at Leonard Taylor's All 22? Anybody want to take a look at Leonard Taylor III's All 22 footage? Anybody want to do that? Leonard Taylor. There's another Leonard Taylor in the league. Leonard Taylor. Sorry, no results. Let's do 58 plays. No, I don't want that. What we want is week 6. 15 plays. Or we could look at every play where Leonard Taylor was on the field. Phil Adams says, how many looks will DA-17 get tonight? Now, the way to think about this, Phil, is like, is he going to be the primary? Is he going to be the X or the Z? Or where is he going to line up? He's probably not going to be the X. Primarily. They're going to move everybody around, of course, and they can all play everywhere, but I really doubt. I mean, he'll get a fair amount. I mean, that's the way to look at it. But also the defense dictates. I mean, if they want to give us a light box, then we got to run on it. So it's impossible to really tell. But he'll get his fair share. He'll get some looks, and we'll see what it looks like. Hold your breath. Oh, but they'll write their articles, Harlan. They'll write their articles. They'll write their articles. So, all right, so there's some, let's see some LT3 plays. All right, so before we do that, we also have to figure out, when we're looking at film, you also have to know what you're looking at. So, when we're looking at defensive tackle, defensive lineman, for example, what are the critical factors that we're looking at from a scouting perspective? What are the defensive line critical factors that you have to look at? When we're because if you just look at the film, you have to know what you're looking at. And there's a way to know what you're looking at, and that is to list out all of the critical factors that would be successful for a defensive lineman. So what are the critical factors for a defensive lineman? That would be important to know. Apparently Jacksonville has gone up now on the Pats, so I guess the early game way the Pats are looking changed up, so who knows? Can he stop the run? No, but there's critical factors, Harlan, that a scout looks at. Let me tell you what those are. There's 10 of them. So for basically any football player, there's 5 things that you want to look at on a football field when you're looking at the tape. Those 5 things are athletic ability, competitive toughness, play strength, mental processing, and play speed. Each of those has subcomponents. But then the position specific for a defensive lineman is as follows. Upfield burst, pass rush, which includes body lean, a PR plan, pass rush plan, cornering, close on the quarterback, versus run, which is diagnose the run, leverage gap, and neutralize blocks, use of hands, which is hand placement, leverage, and block shed, and pursuit, effort, motor, agility through traffic, leverage on the ball. And then other traits are stunts and twists. Are you good at stunts and twists? Timing, force, pad level, lateral movement. Those are the things we want to look at when we're looking at Mr. Taylor. So let me see if I can, hang on a second. Didn't want to do that. Let me see if I can move this around. Okay. Yeah, so those are the things that we want to look at. Rid of this. Okay. So that being the case, let's put this here. Let's take a look at this. All right, so these are the 15 plays from last week against the Bills, those Billonians. All right, he's number 96, which is right here. Now, keep in mind, we want to look at athletic ability, competitive toughness, play strength, mental processing, play speed, upfield burst, pass rush, versus run, use of hands, and pursuit. Here's 96. Pretty good. I mean, look at this play strength. Knocking him back. Pretty good. Not bad. Pretty good burst, I would say. So let's take a look at the other angle. Here he is here. 0-2-4. He's in sort of like a 2-eye technique, or maybe a 1. But he does get knocked back, but it's sort of a double team. Let's go back and see what happened here. Oh, okay. So he's going to get out leveraged because it's a duo block, combo block. No, that's not true. Oh, okay. Quincy knocks him down. See, this is what we can't have. We can't have our own players knocking our own players down. This happened multiple times in the game. Quincy knocks him down. All right, so you can't grade him poorly there. Quincy knocked him over. That's not good, Quincy. That's not good. For the love of Christ, man. Here he is on the goal line. We're not going to learn much on this goal line plays right here. This is a jumbo package, and they just outmuscle us pretty much. Yeah, good effort here. I mean, after the whistle, effort. I kind of like this play here. He doesn't do too much, but he's taking on the double team, and he's not. Here he is. He's not getting completely blown out. Here we have here's your duo right here, and I think they're going for a B gap run. But he does good job in sealing that gap. Running back really has nowhere to go. So I think that's a decent job. Now, I think this would be a plus for me, grading it. And look at his hand usage and his leverage here. Here's 96. And you see we got him playing this technique 2I, I guess you call it. Playing in the A gap. He's not playing the 3 technique. And you notice where Quincy is. But I like this move. I mean, he's got a pass rush plan. His use of hands, he's leveraging the momentum of the blocker to get past him. Nice. Good burst, upfield burst. Now the guard recovers. Center guard. And Allen, escapes. But I think I would give him a plus on that play. What do you guys think? To me, I think he shows good upfield burst on that play. Good use of hands in terms of understanding leverage. And good athletic ability. And Allen just happens to get outside, and Will McDonald is stumbling, bumbling, and doesn't get him. And also a nice tackle by Sherwood on that one. Allen is not easy to tackle, obviously. So here he is with Lakey. And we're using Solly Thomas on the outside on this, which is not something you want to do. And again, a lot of times when you're doing these scouting things, it's like that player didn't do anything. How am I supposed to scout him? So here he is on the right-hand side. So they moved him. Again, sort of a 2I technique. I think he shows good play strength here. Didn't really do much, but it was a good block by the offensive lineman, and he still moved him back a bit. So good play strength, in other words. I'd like to see a little bit more of a motor on him. Here he is with Lakey. And again, Solly on the outside. Not ideal. That's pretty good. So I think this kid, if you watch this film, I do think he's earned more playing time. To me, this shows a good plan right here. And he had a good counter move as well. And good I think his use of hands is pretty decent. Now, he didn't get there, but, I'm not saying he's Cameron Hayward or something, but this is a UDFA that we picked up. Can he play better than, some of our backups? Is all we're really doing. Here he is here. All right, that was sort of I would give him I wouldn't give him a minus, but I wouldn't give him a plus either. It's sort of like a weird stunt that didn't work. Here he is here. Here's our wide 9 with Clemens. This is now going to be Reddick more often. Hopefully, if he gets his butt in here. Double team, double team. So you see we got a duo for probably an A-gap run. No, he cuts it outside. See, now here's a situation where you need all 11 players on your defense to know how to tackle, because we did a decent job of clogging this. This was probably an A-gap run. The running back saw, okay, I don't have a path here. Let me kick it outside. But we have a defender there. This man is named Sauce Gardner. Watch what happens. Now, that's called bad tackling. That man needs to attack, break down, and tackle the running back. And it would have been a no gain or 1 yard or something. Instead, so Sherwood does a good job closing this gap control. Everybody's got everything gap controlled here, except this guy, and he's got good gap control, has to make a tackle. Like, you have to make that tackle. Now, somebody might say, well, he's trying to contain the edge and keep him inside because this safety needs to come in and fill the gap. I don't know, man. When you have a guy right there, you have to tackle him. Look what Deion Dawkins is doing to Michael Clemens. Michael Clemens looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. And then when he tries to tackle him, he completely breaks the tackle. Yeah, that's something that Sauce is going to have to work on. You can't, even though you're a cornerback, you have to play run defense sometimes. Anyways, that's not about Sauce. Yeah, I would say decent motor here for a lineman. These guys do get tired very easily. I mean, they get beat up. But here's Allen escaping. So he gets kind of caught in the traffic, but turns around, keeps going. One thing you could say about Solly Thomas, he does have a good motor. Here's 96. Oh, too bad there was a penalty here because he was about to get a plus on that play. Here's old 96 right here. Now, it's hard to grade because at some point they blow the whistle. But what I was going to say is, this is a great job of shedding this block, but the blocker stops, so can't really grade that. Here we're showing a sim pressure. We got a double mug of the A-gap. Kind of got manhandled there, so that was probably not so hot. But again, he's keeping on going after the play, so I think his motor's okay. I mean, he's not just stopping and not pursuing downfield. Like this is now he does force the running back outside, so maybe he's responsible for this gap, and Sherwood should be responsible for this gap. And Davis, beats us there. This is Ray Davis. Tackled by Ashton Davis. Davis to Davis connection. But 96, he doesn't just get blocked and then stop. If he continues downfield, which you like to see for a defensive lineman. So I do think he really should earn a little bit more playing time. And it's not that he's great and he's overwhelming people, but I think he's doing a good enough job. It's a nice tackle by 35. I do think the Green Goblin, that's Jalen Mills, I do think he's going to get more playing time in this game. I would think it'll be interesting to see tonight if Jalen Mills is our starting safety. I would like to see Jalen Mills start at safety next to Tony Adams and then just use Isaiah Oliver and Ashton Davis in the slot. with Ashton Davis being the backup. It's a kind of a weird thing. When we are in our gap integrity, the running back seems to be bouncing it out. See, and look at this. I would give him a plus on this. Now, he does get double teamed, but at the same time, he beat the initial block. We're in decent gap integrity here, but he's able to get outside of Saleh. It's like sometimes we're not in our gap integrity and then they just run right through. And then other times when we are, they bounce it outside and we don't have good edge setting. And you heard Jeff Ulbrich make a comment about the edge in one of his pressers this week. Even this, he's able to get on his outside shoulder, gets his hand up to try and block it. I mean, I like what I'm seeing out of him, really. And again, it's not like he's Cam Hayward or something, but I think better than what we have otherwise. No, it's good pursuit to the ball. I think people forget Jalen Mills was a big part of, here's Mills back here. Jalen Mills was a big part of the Patriots defense for a long time under Belichick. He was like a Swiss Army knife that you could use as corner, slot, safety, whatever you want him to be. All right, so those are all the plays. There you go. So I think we have determined that LT3 should play some more. How about that? They're still in halftime in the Patriots game. Let's check the news to see if anything else has occurred in Jetland. Doesn't seem like it. All right. So let's check in on the chat. Phil Adams says, LT3 deserves more snaps. Yeah, I think so. Harlan says, good upfield burst. Yeah, I think he does. I mean, I think the coaching staff's got to look at that and say, look, this is a weakness of ours. Let's see what the kid can do. Yeah, well, this is one of the arguments, John, against Joe Douglas. So if you were in favor of firing Joe Douglas, which I'm not yet, but I could understand it because one of the arguments you could have is he hollowed out the defensive line for really no good reason. If he kept JFM, that was the thing. Like Bryce Huff got $17 million a year. I understand we weren't going to match that. No problem. But but he let JFM go, and JFM's a valuable player. That's the part I don't get. And the line would be looking fine if that. Harlan says he won't be ready for 2 weeks. Yeah, probably. The most likely scenario is he plays against Houston on Halloween. But it's possible he plays some small percent of snaps, like maybe a third down, in like the Bryce Huff role from last year against the Patriots. Well, Sauce is lightweight, Phil. He doesn't look that way. He is. But his technique also sucks. I mean, you gotta have technique. You gotta want to tackle people, and you have to take the time in the offseason to develop your technique. That's what I would be telling Sauce to do this offseason. Look, we need you to become better against the run, and we need you to take the ball away. Those are two things. He needs to improve his technique significantly. Yeah, exactly. Clemens, yeah, Michael Clemens, I mean, if you think about it, Deion Dawkins manhandled him. He basically said, he basically was talking about him and then came into the game and manhandled him. So what does that tell you about Michael Clemens? Can't handle it. You can't handle the truth. Somebody mentioned Sheldon Rankins. So Rankins, I wanted to look him up. House of Red Wine, is it reasonable? Well, the question is, so when I do a Google search, it says Sheldon Rankins plots injury return. He's on the Bengals. So it really just depends on what the Bengals think about their season. This was 1 week ago. He has an injury in the fourth quarter of week 2 game. So it depends on his health, but also more importantly, depends on what the Bengals want to do with their season. So let's see. I mean, anytime you have Joe Burrow, you probably don't want to give up on a season until it's absolutely necessary. Teams standings. The Bengals, they're 2-4. So I would say probably not right now. They're 0-3 at home. That's weird. And they have a net point differential of +5, so they're not getting blown out. So I would say they're not giving up on their. But if they lose a couple more games and it's the deadline, maybe Rankins can go. Like if they're 2-6 at the deadline, probably then they'll want to go. But as of right now, they're not going to be sellers. Not when you have Joe Burrow, a +5 net point differential, and a 2-4 record when you're just a couple of games behind in your division. So we would have to hope that they lose some more. House of Red Wine, I would say. Yeah. Exactly, B-Trav. And you have to develop that. You have to develop your technique. You have to develop your want to. And, he doesn't do that. Well, Parcells also ran a 3-4. So the other thing, and we could have long conversations about that, which we won't do today, the pluses and minuses of a 4-3 versus a 3-4. When you're setting the edge with a thumper linebacker, it's a lot easier. And I like a 3-4 better, personally, myself. But we rely on these defensive linemen, and then you have to find people who can do it. And they're kind of rare, hard to find. JFM asked for more money? No, that's not true. So JFM basically, he would have taken the deal. He would have taken a pay cut and he took a pay, and we know that because he took a pay cut for the Broncos. He reworked his deal. His number went down and it was more palatable. But JD wanted him to go way down. He wasn't going to do that. So we could have restructured JFM very easily. So I'd like to know what happened there. Did Woody tell him the budget's too high for defensive line, you got to fix this, or what? It's the one thing that doesn't make any sense. All right, so that's pretty much it for Coffee with Frankie this week. Thank you for joining me. We will see you tonight at the old game, the Green Bean channel, where we do the live stream, keep track of the drives, drive charting, and all that fun stuff. Jeremy will be there. I'll be there. Green Bean will be there. Maybe other assorted guests will be there. Who knows? You never know these days. But if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get up to 400 subscribers. We'd appreciate your help with that. Hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm. Click the bell if you want notifications. Click all the buttons and bells and things all day long. And with that being said, I'll see you next time, and let's go Jets.